Hey you guys, so on June 27th, we will enter into the new moon, the new Hebrew month, the fourth month on God's biblical calendar, the month of Tammuz. And this will be at the biblical new moon, which is technically a waxing crescent moon, versus the modern new moon is they consider it to be when the moon is not visible, when it's all black. The biblical new moon is a waxing crescent moon, when the moon first begins to become visible and you can see the peak of light. This is the biblical new moon, which will land on June 27th, this Friday. And this will kick us off into the month of Tammuz, the fourth month on God's Hebrew calendar. The themes of the month of Tammuz is judgment. Okay, this was the month that they worshiped the golden calf. This was also, this month is associated with the tribe of Reuben, and the tribe of Reuben lost their firstborn birthright due to adultery. And due to this, he lost his position and his blessing. The Hebrew month of Tammuz aligns with the zodiac sign Cancer, or Sartan in Hebrew. And the biblical interpretation of the constellation Cancer is associated with the time of Jacob's trouble, the second coming, the binding of Satan, and the ascension of the saints. So this month is really about conflict, war, judgment. And it's no coincidence that as we're entering into this month, that we're at a point in time in history where Iran and Israel are at war with one another. And I shared the word that the Lord gave me concerning the numbers 7171 and what he had to say in linking it to the war of Gog and Magog. If you haven't seen that video, I will leave it in the description box below or in the comments. But it absolutely ties in with this month that we're entering into. Regardless of what you believe about Bible prophecy, and whether you think this war is the war of Gog and Magog, it at the very least is a type and shadow of that prophecy, and something we should definitely be watching for and watchful of, and something that is in alignment with God's times and seasons, his biblical Hebrew months, and the meaning behind them. But the sign of Cancer is also about home, belonging, emotional renewal, home stability, financial stability. It's a time where we want to focus on our personal space, our loved ones, and our emotional well-being. It's a time when we're building a sense of security and belonging. It could also be a time where we welcome a new family member or focus on home improvement projects or strengthening our relationships with our loved ones. The element associated with this constellation is water, which points to and represents emotions. So this sign is associated with the feelings. And this constellation's ruling planet is the moon, which is also associated with emotions. This constellation is located in the fourth house, and in astrology, the fourth house is associated with home, life, ancestry, family, legacy, family life, comfort, security, nurturing, privacy, parental interaction, childhood, intimate relationships. This house is associated with either the dominant parent or the mother figure from childhood. It deals with our foundations, our upbringing, and family roots. So these will all give you an idea of the themes and the things that may be taking place throughout this coming month that will ultimately impact and help stabilize your emotions and your foundations, your home security, your family security, your legacy. It has to do with ancestral roots, so legacy, purpose, and this month is really about getting those things anchored and stabilized. Cancer is about home security and rest. Those born under this sign take great pleasure in the comforts of home and family. They are maternal, domestic, and love to nurture others. In like manner, Cancer represents the home of the saved, where love, nurturing, and family will reign supreme. The symbolism employed in the sign of Cancer speaks of the second coming of Christ to take his people to their heavenly home, to their haven or rest, represented by the minor constellation Argo, the ship in Cancer. Sailboats symbolize going on a far journey and adventure. They're also associated with being carried along by the wind, as its primary form of momentum is gained through the wind in its sails. The wind is symbolic of the Holy Spirit. And this really resonated with me. We talked about at last month's new moon how the month of Sivan is associated with the tribe of Zebulun, and Zebulun were merchant traders. Their symbol is that of the ship. Last month, the month of Sivan, is also associated with the Holy Spirit, because this was the month when the church was born and the Holy Spirit was released on his people, empowering his people, baptizing them in the power of the Holy Spirit. So we see a smooth transition from the month of Sivan into the month of Tammuz, still continuing on with this theme of journey, taking a ship. We've been waiting for our ships to come in so we can be taken on this journey, on this adventure, and we are moving right into it as we go into this month of Tammuz, because Cancer is about being taken by ship into our place of rest, into the home of the saved. The constellation Cancer is illustrated by the sign of the crab, and the crab represents a place of safety, of refuge, right? The crab has a hard exterior protecting it, and so it's symbolizing the protection of the saints in times of judgment, in times of conflict, in times of war, represented by the claws that the crab has. So there's safety and security in times of conflict and war. And what would you know, here we are entering this very month at a time where we see this war taking place between Iran and Israel. Unlike the previous 3 Hebrew months, Tammuz has no joyous holidays. It does, however, have tragedy and war, the sin of the golden calf, the subsequent destruction of the 2 tablets, Joshua's conquest against Jericho, and the eventual destruction of Jerusalem's walls by the Babylonian emperor Nebuchadnezzar. The month of Tammuz is one of 3 months, along with Av and Tevet, where the energy of judgment is more direct. Tammuz is often referred to as the month of emotions, where the energy can be unbalanced. Does this mean that the month of Tammuz is a bad month? Not necessarily. It just means that this is a month of challenge and confrontation, and without challenge, there is no growth. Without confrontation, there is no way to see things as they are. Tammuz is the cardinal water sign of Cancer, the tribe of Reuben, and the only moon-ruled month of the Hebrew year. Jacob's blessing to Reuben in Genesis 49:4 describes him as unstable as water. Although Reuben was the firstborn of Jacob, he slept with Jacob's concubine, and in so doing lost his right as the firstborn. So we can see that Reuben was at the center of a big family scandal, but nevertheless, he was the one who convinced the rest of his brothers not to kill Joseph in their conflict of jealousy and anger against him. So because of Reuben, the brothers did not kill Joseph and instead sold him into slavery. And this is interesting that we see this story kind of coming full circle, because this month of Tammuz, the first of Tammuz, was the day that Joseph was born, and also the day that he went on to be with the Lord. So a theme for this month, due to it starting with the birth and death of Joseph, tells us that this is a time where we overcome hardships for the good of many. Joseph forgave his brothers in the end, and they apologized later on when he became second in command over all of Egypt. And he said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, that many would be saved." So the conflicts that we see in the world right now, and the conflict and the warfare and the opposition that we as individuals and as the remnant of God were purposed so that many could be saved. So everything that we see and that we're experiencing thus far, and even through this month, and even through the next 3 months, because these next 3 months are challenging, conflicting energy, we need to realize that it is working for our good, and it is working for the good of many, and it's going to bring about stability. It's going to bring about our positioning into our high place, into our high calling. Like Joseph, the day came when the prison doors opened, and because of his gift, he was positioned and entrusted with the responsibility of being second in command over all of Egypt. So on the 1st of Tammuz, Joseph was born and passed away. On the 3rd of Tammuz, Joshua stops the sun. This is found in the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verses 1 through 15. On the 5th of Tammuz, Ezekiel receives his chariot vision. This is found in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verses 4 through 26. On the 9th of Tammuz, Jerusalem's walls were breached by Nebuchadnezzar, a date observed as a fast day until the second breaching of Jerusalem's walls by the Roman Empire on the 17th of Tammuz. And on the 17th of Tammuz, the golden calf was also offered by the Jewish people. So I went to go look at my calendar for July 2024 because we're entering July 2025, and I feel like there's a theme of, the 12 months, 1 year, representing kind of a full circle moment. And so on July 2024, I have notations of breakthroughs, home blessings, ambition will return, and money blocks will be removed. Rapid money decisions will need to be made, and it is a time to launch something. And this was awesome because God had given me a download about a launch pad. So I looked up the definition of a launch pad, and it is the area on which a rocket stands for launching, typically consisting of a platform with a supporting structure, something that sets a particular activity, enterprise in motion. Okay, so this month is our launching pad, and it is setting everything into motion. Looking back at the 3rd of Tammuz, where Joshua stops the sun, this is representing spiritual authority, taking authority over the heavenly bodies. And this was the only time that this happened, that the celestial bodies obeyed a man, a human being. And Joshua commanded the sun to stop, and it stopped in order for them to win this war against their enemies. And this is spiritually speaking to us today of Jesus in the midst of this war that's happening in the natural, in the now. This war is what God is using to defeat spiritual Egypt and bring his people out of spiritual slavery, out of a physical slavery that we're in through this matrix, through this cabal. Joshua, the name Joshua means Jesus. So this is a representation and a confirmation to us of what God is doing in this month at this time, and what he's really been zoning in on since April 8th eclipse, when the head of CERN passed away, when they shot the rocket Apophis, the Egyptian god of destruction, at the solar eclipse, which represented the sign of Jonah and the resurrection of God's people through his spirit, the manifestation of the sons of God rising in the earth. And we've been going through month by month this journey as we ascend and come into our place in the earth. While the whole earth is groaning and mourning because of the conflict, because of the war that we see, the shaking in the nations in the earth, the sons of God are rising with victory and joy in their spirit, because we have spiritual understanding, discernment, and awareness of what is happening and why it's happening. All things working for the good of those who love God. And so this that is taking place must happen in order for his people and for the tribes of Israel scattered amongst the nations to awaken and to arise and to come out from this matrix that they've created, this enslavement of God's people, of God's land, this prostitution of God's people, of God's land, when at the root of it, there has been corruption. There has been corporations who have taken control of the nations, and of the things of God, and kept them in slavery and perverted what is holy. And God is now turning the money tables. This that we see going on is going to release the wealth transfer, is going to bring financial and home security for his people, is going to bring us into Cancer, the place of safety in a time of shaking, where we will find rest and refuge as God wars against his enemies. Something that I feel is significant about the astrology in the month of July is that Uranus is entering Gemini. On July 7th, 2025, Uranus is entering Gemini and is for the most part going to remain there until 2033. And if we look at the history of when Uranus enters Gemini, we will find that the theme is usually marked by war and monetary changes. Uranus takes roughly about 84 years to orbit the sun, and the planet Uranus is about revolution, disruption, sudden realizations, inspiration, technological leaps, freedom, and authenticity. Every 84 years or so, a person, system, or institution will experience a Uranus return, which is when Uranus returns to the position it was in when they were born. And this will tend to bring about a significant shift or reset, a time when systems no longer serve their purpose, are disrupted, or renewed. If we observe U.S. history, we find that whenever Uranus is in Gemini, we see a pattern of war and the transformation of the U.S. monetary system. The United States was born out of the Revolutionary War at the time when Uranus was in Gemini. The Civil War and World War II also occurred when Uranus was in Gemini. The Second World War is when the U.S. emerged as a global superpower, and near the end of World War II is when a landmark financial deal known as the Bretton Woods Agreement was made, establishing the U.S. dollar as the world's global reserve currency. In 2028 and 29, we'll see the exact Uranus return as the Bretton Woods Agreement. But it's highly plausible that as Uranus enters Gemini on July 7th of 2025, that we could soon see events take place that shake up the global financial system. With Uranus entering Gemini, we should be on the lookout for major changes coming in the form of a type of financial reset and tensions of war. It's absolutely incredible the times that we're living in, and that we've been chosen for such a time as this to be a part of this generation, to witness Bible prophecy play out, to be a part of God's end times army. It's incredible. And we just need to be focused and excited now more than ever, because God is taking back the land and he is establishing his kingdom here on earth, and he is preparing to do great exploits through his remnant, through the 144,000, through the first fruits, through the church, through the body. And we know as well that God speaks through the heavenly bodies. This is the new wine. This is the new wine where he's pouring out greater revelation, greater understanding, restoring back that which was stolen, the wisdom, the identity, the inheritance. And this is why wisdom is increasing in the last days, as well as God's army is increasing in these last days. And we need to have this perspective. Now, there's a significant celestial alignment happening today that is important and just gives us insight on and confirms everything that we just talked about and the things we've been talking about this death and rebirth, the significance of the solar eclipse, the sign of Jonah, which also links to the Queen of Sheba and spiritually links to the releasing of wealth, the wealth transfer, this new cycle, this reset. This is a great reset that we see taking place. And we're going to see new systems emerge. We're going to see things continue to play out. They are establishing this global system, and it has to happen. It has to come to pass because it is written. But what the enemy intends for evil, God will turn for the good of those who love him. So it's important for us to understand the times and to make the most of these changes that we see happening in the earth, and to allow it to place wealth in our hands so that we can do the work necessary to prepare the earth for his coming and to establish his kingdom here on earth and to preach the gospel to all creation. So I'm going to link this video where this guy does a great job breaking it all down. I think it will be helpful. So as always, be blessed.
After June 24th and June 25th, your life will never be the same. This could either be a very positive thing or a very negative thing. That depends on you. But what you need to know is the intentions that you are setting right now are going to have a very profound effect on how the rest of your life plays out. Because right now we are in the reset portal, and after the 24th and the 25th, your identity and the very path you're on in life is going to be reset. In this video, in the simplest way possible, I'm going to break down everything that's going on, what makes this the reset portal, and what you need to do in order to harness and use this energy to make sure that it's a positive reset and not a negative one. Because if you end up in a negative reset, you will not be able to course correct for another 12 years. And the reason that's the case is because we're not going to see this energy again for another 12 years. Get your pens, get your papers, get prepared to take notes, or save this video so you can come back and watch it. But the reset portal opened when Mars squared Uranus, Uranus being in Taurus, Mars being in Leo. Don't worry, I'm going to explain what that means. Understand this though, a square is usually considered the harshest aspect in astrology. Uranus is the planet that is known as the Great Awakener or the Revolutionary, and it's in Taurus. Taurus is the zodiac sign that represents how you get money and your personal values. Mars is the planet that represents your forward momentum and your actions and your passions. And Leo is the zodiac sign that represents your true, authentic identity when all the illusions are stripped away. But at the same time, we have this square between Uranus and Mars. Jupiter, the planet of luck, abundance, and expansion, has moved into Cancer. Cancer is the zodiac sign that Jupiter is exalted in. When a planet is in the zodiac sign that it's exalted in, that means the energies of that planet, which with Jupiter is luck, abundance, and expansion, is absolutely maxed out. So let's get back to Uranus squaring Mars and what that means so that you step onto the right path instead of the wrong one. This is painting a very clear picture. What the universe wants from you is to reevaluate the things that you think you value. And is that in alignment with your true identity? Stripping away all the illusions that you created about yourself to appease other people's expectations of you. And because Mars is a key player, you're going to have to show this in the physical. You may have to cut certain people out of your life. You may have to cut certain things out of your life in order to step into that authentic identity that you're supposed to be. And it's not going to be easy because at the same time, everything I just said is going on. We have a conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in Aries. Saturn is the planet that represents the physical realm, but also karma, also the hardest lessons you have to learn, the hardest challenges you have to face, but where the greatest rewards come from. When we have a conjunction of Saturn, which represents the physical, with Neptune, the planet that represents the inner realm, in conjunction in Aries, Aries being the zodiac sign that represents the fires of creation, this is the time for you to create the life you've always wanted. But in order to do so, you're going to have to do a lot of reevaluation. But what makes Aries the fires of creation? Look, it's not a coincidence that the word Aries is in the word ovaries. There's a reason why the symbol of Aries looks like a woman's reproductive system. It's the zodiac sign through which we birth things from the inner into the outer. This conjunction of Neptune, which represents the inner, and Saturn, which represents the outer, means the energies thereof are absolutely maxed out as well. But like I told you, the 24th and the 25th are the dates you need to be looking out for, because on the 24th, the sun will conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. The sun is the ruler of Leo, and what did I say that represents? Your true identity. So your identity is going to be reset on the 24th, which is very, very important, because on the 25th, the moon will join the sun, making a triple conjunction, including Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter being exalted in Cancer, but a conjunction of the sun and the moon creates a new moon, the moon being the ruler of Cancer. This is a reset of your life path because, like I've told y'all so many times before, the new moon represents the new path, the new journey, the new way. And if you are prepared for all of this and aligned with it, this will be a very positive thing. But if you're not prepared for this and you're not aligned with it, this will be a very negative thing. And the reason why you won't be able to course correct this for 12 years if you do end up on a negative path is because we will not have a triple conjunction like this in Cancer again until 12 years from now. Now, in order for you to harness this and make sure you're making the right decisions, is you're going to have to choose the path that makes you the most uncomfortable. That's what Saturn wants from us. Saturn wants us to choose the harder path, and he will reward us for that. Further confirmed by the fact that Uranus is squaring Mars. You're going to have to reevaluate the things that you think you value in life. And you're going to have to step into your authenticity. This is further confirmed by the fact that we are in a year of the snake according to the Chinese zodiac. A year of the snake is all about shedding your old skin and becoming the new authentic version of yourself. And like I just said, you're going to have to choose the uncomfortable route, because just like when a snake sheds its skin, when the snake does that, it's not a very comfortable experience for the snake. So this can't be a comfortable experience with you. If you choose the path that you're the most comfortable with, that's the path that you'll end up punished for, and you'll end up on the negative path, end up losing everything you've ever worked for, instead of being on the positive path that ends with you having everything you've ever desired. Because with Jupiter being in Cancer, the universe wants to hand you everything you've ever desired. Look around at global events. Everything is changing. Everything is going through a reset. The world will never be the same after the 24th and the 25th, and neither will your life. But the elite are trying to take your attention outside of yourself and have it focus on events outside of you so that you don't take advantage of this and use it for yourself. They're using it for themselves and their selfish gains. You should use it for yourself and the promotion of your life to a higher vibration and a higher timeline. That's what's set up for you if you step onto the right path. So